Hi everybody, welcome to Glow with Grace. This is an interview with the fabulous raw goddess Shazzie in the UK. We have a very special event to tell you about that Shazzie has coming up in a month. So we want to let you know about that and just have a chat about all the amazing information that's stuck in her head. So welcome Shazzie, thanks for being here.
Hello, Angela. How are you, darling?
I'm good.
Yeah,
How are
great.
you?
Yeah, I'm amazing. It's late. It's night time. It's my bedtime. I'm on my bed, ready to sleep.
Yeah, you've got plated
My
beds.
gold-plated bed. Yeah, such a
Yeah,
princess.
if you get too tired, just let me know. You can
I'll just lie
go off to sleep.
down.
So tell us about your event. You have an event coming up in a month in
Yeah.
Angleterre.
In Angleterre. Yes, it's the UK's biggest raw food event of the year. It's exciting for me, Angela, because I haven't worked for a year. I mean, I did an event at the Mind Body Spirit Festival in the summer, and then shortly after, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a 2 hour workshop, and it was a full house, and it was great. A couple of days after that, I got hit by a lorry and was
Oh, wow.
disabled for 3 months. So I couldn't do anything.
That's a truck. In
Oh, a
America, who
truck.
doesn't know what a lorry is, that's a
It
got hit by a truck,
got hit. And
like
it
a
wasn't
big
my
old
car.
truck.
It wasn't my car. It was actually me. He reversed into my legs, smacked into me. And no one quite knew what was wrong. And I was kind of starting to pick out colours for my biddy mobile because I thought never going to walk again. It's just not happening. And then I got a letter to go and have an MRI scan to try and find out what was wrong with me. And at the same time, I'd booked to do a shamanic event. Now, I didn't realise I had this letter because my whole world was upside down. So I went off and did the shamanic event, which was next door to my house, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I got my legs back. So thank God I didn't see the letter because I would have
Wow.
not done the event and I would have gone for the MRI to have some diagnostic tests.
Wow.
So now I'm fully fit and able, just a little bit weak. But I'm like, oh God, I haven't worked for a year and I've been lying down for 3 months and, kind of wondering if I was ever going to walk again. I really want to celebrate my life. I really want to celebrate some stuff and have a party and, do what I love to do, which is, being of service to people and showing them how to make raw food nice, how to make it easy, how to make it fit in with your life, how to make it juicy, getting the superfoods in and the chocolate and all the other gorgeous scrummy stuff, and then have like a really nice party. So some party games and good music and lots of stuff. So we've got a 3 course gourmet meal for lunch, which is done by my chef Caroline, who's amazing. She makes like the best food ever. And then an endless buffet at night and superfood cocktails and raw chocolates and all the tasters from the workshop. So it's a 13-hour event. It's huge. It's like don't come here and expect little. Come here and expect total transformation, expect something amazing to happen to your life, and really be amongst people who know how to live their lives the best way possible, whether they're invalid, lying down in bed, or whether they're full-bodied. Able-bodied, that's a wine, isn't it? Full-bodied. So so really what I'm saying is, I just want people to come and have fun and party and, enjoy the experience of the whole raw food vibe that you and I know and love. Like when we get together, it's just blah, 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 blah. It's exciting and there's nothing like it. And I want other people to know that and to feel that. And that's why I'm putting the event on. It's on the 9th.
Sweet, yeah, because
It's
we're so kind of immersed in it. It's like we don't even think about it sometimes. And then, for other people, it's like, it's so amazing if they even meet somebody else who eats raw food. So to put on an event like this, where it's just like total immersion all day long
yeah.
with amazing people for 30 hours, that's going to be
It
fun.
is. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're absolutely right. We forget, don't we? Because we've been doing it so long that it's anything different or special. But when people meet me and ask me what I eat. I'm so surprised that they don't know. And then I remember, oh yeah, well, there was a time I didn't know. And, that's what's really nice about being of service and educating people. And, and the other thing I'm doing is celebrating some more TV shows coming out. Got 3 new TV shows coming out. Yeah. So I think one might be this week, but they're kind of October-y. And they're all raw food TV shows on the Active channel, which is available worldwide on the internet, but also on Sky and Freesat in the UK and Europe. So, yeah, double celebration. And I just want to share that with people and, give them the best of the best. The best raw food, the best information, the best way of making raw food, the best way of integrating it with your life and, making sure that you're living a great life and you're not revolving around food, because that's a bit obsessional and that's not what we're into. So it's on the 9th of November 2013 in Sussex. Beautiful countryside. You can see the downs on a clear day from where we are. And it's a really amazing place to be and to hang out with. So yeah, that's that.
Where I'm from.
It is where you're from, love, isn't it?
I'm very far away now.
I often think of you when I say Sussex. I know. It is still as warm though.
Miles away.
How far is it?
What's that?
It's still warm.
Thousands of miles.
Thousands. We're talking over each other. It is still warm here. It's as if we're in Vilcabamba here today. And I've still got strawberries growing outside.
Nice. We have strawberries too as well at the moment. That's so good.
I should hope so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, if anyone doesn't actually know who you are, which I'm not sure how that's possible, but in case there's one person who's been hiding in Kazakhstan for the last 15 years, Shazzie has been in this movement for, I don't even know, like 15, 20 years now? Raw foods movement?
Yeah, raw foods, nearly 14 years, but I've been a vegan for like 26 years. So, always in there.
Yeah.
Always in there. And I'm only 12.
And yeah, so hit by a lorry, hit by a truck a few months ago, didn't know what direction she was going in. Now she's back, and she's better than ever, and she's coming at you.
I know, watch out world. Yeah.
So people can go to Shazzie.com to find more information about your event.
Yeah, shizzie.com, or as they say in America, I said SHI, didn't I? I just spelled my name wrong. SHAZZIE.com. Or in American, SHAZZIE.com. I'm not a writer at all.
Truck, lorry, Z.
Brain.
Some kind of combination.
It's a winning combo, baby. I'm eternally happy anyway, so it's just knocked any kind of weirdness out of my head. It's fantastic. Yeah. Nice. I wish you could come.
Yeah, I'm sad. You seem to be back on a roll.
Yeah, I feel like that, and I feel like I know what I want to do now. I want to bring small things to people. I've done a lot of big stuff. I've done a TV. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where you go from there. Apart from like getting a spaceship and chartering the outer ring of Saturn, and I might go dizzy. So it's like, all right, I've done all that, and I love it, and I love what it brings, and I love the way it spreads the message. But I want to get personal with people, so that's why I've chosen this as well. It's like, yeah, I want to do that.
And it's the only event you're doing, right? It's the only event that you've done in a really long time live, and now it's the only event that you're going to be doing for a while.
Yeah, I haven't done an event for a really long time, maybe 3 years or maybe more. I used to do them like every year at least, 3 times a year, and so yeah, I'm really, really excited that I'm doing this event, because I want, the type of people that come, I know that it always just kind of rockets them up into a different place. It elevates them. And so, you know, with the way that my life was going, I couldn't squeeze events in, and now I can, because I've sold my business. I'm a lady of pleasure now. So I can do what I want, which is great. You know, just hanging out with people and kind of passing off what I know, but also my wisdom, my kind of inner stuff, not just the stuff that I've read up about or learned, you know, but the actual wisdom of food and healing and happiness and creating your perfect life and all the other stuff, of which I am a complete mistress, you know. I get all that right. So it's all perfect. Truck or no truck.
Yeah, you have so much to say. I was wanting to pick your brains a little bit here today about nutrition for pregnant women, breastfeeding women, and kind of babies, toddlers, because that's something that I kind of point people towards in terms of your work, like all the time. Like, I get so many questions all the time about like, what should I eat while I'm pregnant, and what should I eat in breastfeeding, and what can I give my toddler to eat, and all those kinds of things. And I always send people to your book, Evie's Kitchen. I'm just like, get that. There's everything in it. Yeah. Because it's so hard, you know, to try to explain everything, and you just did it. You, like, to me, that's just kind of the Bible of that whole realm, is Evie's Kitchen. So if anyone's like thinking to ask that question, then just go there and look at Evie's Kitchen. But I was wondering if you could kind of give us a bit of a picture there.
Yeah.
Kind of why you even felt to share all of that stuff about nutrition for vegan babies or raw vegan babies or whatever, and kind of like the general outline of like what's a good idea for someone to be intaking.
Well, the reason I decided to share it was because I was pregnant and I was raw, and I'd seen quite a lot of people who had raw children and they were not thriving. So I still feel upset when I think about it, because I was seeing children that were very small, that had like barely any teeth because they'd all rotten away, that had like that kind of peanut shaped head, which is a vitamin D deficiency, and were just not right, just not thriving. And no matter how much you're devoted to a belief system, you can't impress it on somebody else if you've got any doubt that it's gonna not work. And what I saw was that there was some dogma in the raw food movement that was allowing people to do this to their children, and they were gathering together and saying it's okay, and anyone that tried to change it was outcast on forums and groups, and dismissed as being mad or anti-vegan or anti-raw. And as a very long-term vegan and as a raw foodist, I thought, and as someone that had a reputation for writing stuff that actually is factual and well-researched, I just thought it feels like my dharma, you know, the thing I have to do. But also it was for my own sake, so that I could raise Evie with at least mostly the foods that I ate, and her not be subject to any of these physical failings that I'd seen. So I was researching it while I was pregnant, and it took me 4 years to properly, fully write it. And that was, you know, obviously I wasn't writing it for 4 years solid, but it was taking the time to get to understand how can I get the values of the raw food diet, which are amazing and beautiful, and make sure that children have the nutrition that they need to survive and thrive, so that we can get out of this dogmatic belief system that we were in as a movement. So that's what I did. And what I came to notice was there wasn't that much wrong with a raw food vegan diet. And if you put a few things in place, it would be absolutely perfect. So the few things that were missing that I noticed were there was essential fatty acids, EPA and DHA, which you can now get vegan forms of, both in capsules. So that's not an issue. Choline, that was quite big. You know, there's no, you need choline to build a brain, and there was nothing really. There's very little choline. And now you can get sunflower lecithin, which is high choline. You can get high PC choline. So that's not an issue, because you can take all these internally as you're pregnant, and then while you're breastfeeding, the child will get it, and then by the time it's eating, you can put it in the food. So it's never a problem. It's not a continuation issue. Vitamin B12, obviously, this is a big thing within the vegan movement, and anybody that denies it is going to run into problems at some point. And having a child while you're having a low vitamin B12 is it's catastrophic, because they can only absorb the B12 while it's in your bloodstream. They can't take it from your own stores. So you have to have a constant source of B12, which is not what you normally need as an adult, as an independent adult that hasn't got a child attached to it. So it's a different story. And then you've got the bone building, the bone making, fat soluble vitamins. And this was where I was looking at Weston Price's work, nutritional and physical degeneration, and he looked at something called Activator X, which was later determined to be vitamin K2, which is different from vitamin K1. You can get K1 from green leafy vegetables, and as much as you like, we're abundant in it. Vitamin K2 comes from fermented products, so ruminants can ferment green leafies and create vitamin K2, and that's why they've got a high amount of it in their butter and their organ meat. In their butter and their milk that goes to make butter or cheese or whatever. And but we can't do that. We can only make a small amount of vitamin K2. So there's vitamin K2, vitamin D, and vitamin A. Vitamin A is slightly contentious. Some people say that the beta carotene will never convert to vitamin A in the way that we need it for optimal growth and repair. Vitamin D, it's interesting in the northern hemisphere, like in England, we don't get enough of it. We never get enough of it. I mean, I'm like a sun worshipper, but we only get the sun 6 months of the year, and that's not that strong. And there's the risk of burning too. And if you're having cooked fats in your diet and you're not having a lot of essential fatty acids and antioxidants, then you have a higher risk of burning. I don't ever burn because of my diet, because I have a lot of antioxidants and essential fatty acids. But you've got a 6-month-old child. What are you going to do? Expose it to 2 hours of sun? You can't. So those were the three things, and I realised that what I was seeing with the children that I'd seen before was malnourishment for those fat-soluble vitamins. So they were getting the minerals, but they weren't getting the fat-soluble vitamins. So the minerals couldn't be laid down. The minerals couldn't create the bone. And that's why they were small and bird-like. And it really made a lot of sense to me. So I made sure that I had, on top of my normal diet, I made sure I had, it doesn't exist now, it was Orthobone vegan, but there is the, what are they called, raw something or other, and they do a raw bone supplement. You sell it, don't you? Which has a lot of other stuff in it, and it's worth having that if you're pregnant and breastfeeding, and then you can just sprinkle it on your children's food and hide it and stuff. It's worth having that as a supplement, and keeping on top of those things. There were a few other things, but those were the main things. Those were the things that were really going to make a difference to a child's development. And so what I did was, I discovered all that's what we needed to add into a raw vegan diet. And then I decided I wasn't even going to risk it for my child. And she, after breastfeeding, she started eating eggs. And she has a bit of dairy, she has a bit of cheese and stuff like that. Don't let her glug milk or anything. You know, so it's all stuff that's kind of concentrated. But that was a weird thing for me to emotionally get over, because, you know, it's like I've been a vegan so long, but it's not my body, and it's what she wants. She's chosen it, so I let her do it, and I get the best stuff I can get. So that's my recommendation.
Beautiful, thank you. That was such a good summary. That's like the best, most clear, succinct summary I've heard of that whole thing so far. That was brilliant. So what comes up for me after I hear that is, how's the response been to this information that you've shared, and do you feel like you're seeing changes in those kinds of children?
The children that I saw originally, I don't see anymore, so I don't know. What I am seeing now is, I think what we're all seeing is people are taking a much less dogmatic view of raw foodism. They're allowing things in that they might not have allowed before. They're being raw for longer because they're not being so restrictive in themselves, and they're allowing their children to make certain choices when they're of a certain age that may not be what they particularly want. And it feels like people have just let go and relaxed a bit. I've had a few emails where people have not done what I recommended, and their children are suffering still. And one in particular was really sad. You know, the woman said, this is what I wanted to do, but my partner said, no, if it has enough green smoothies, it doesn't need supplements. And then the child didn't thrive. So she's doing now an awful lot of backpedaling to try and help this child. And that's, you can't force people to do this. You know, you can only stay your research and your experience, and then it's up to other people. But I do feel on the whole that the raw food movement changed radically after I published that book. And there were people that said, no, you don't need to do it. There were people that said, no, just eat bananas and all the rest of it. But you know what? I'm not getting involved in what they do. It makes no sense to me, as much as what I do makes no sense to them. I'm just going to, just let it go. It's like, it's not me. It's not what I do. I don't understand it. And, you know, this is hardcore research. It took me 4 years to really get it right. And I even spoke to one of the top nutritionists in the UK, Patrick Holford, and I showed him all the nutritional stuff. And he's not a raw foodist and he's not a vegan, but he understands nutrition very well. And he said, yeah, you've got it spot on, but I would just increase the vitamin D because of all the new research. So I changed it and I increased the vitamin D as a result of him saying that. So, you know, I got it validated too. So what I feel now is that, yeah, we have a new generation of raw kids, and they might not be fully raw, they might not be vegan, they might be this, they might be that, they might enjoy superfoods, they might not, and it's a lot more elastic, a lot more giving, and people are being a lot more flexible about it. That's what I'm seeing.
Yay!
Hooray!
Well done. I have to say, personally, like for me and for our family, I'm just so grateful to you for sharing that information, for doing all that research and putting it out there and having the courage to just say, this is what I believe is true and this is what I believe can help people, because I know how catty things can be in the raw foods movement, and you know, that takes courage for sure to stand up and say that stuff. And you know, I don't want to even think where, you know, my health might be or my daughter's health might be if we didn't have that kind of information. You know, she might be one of those like frail bird-like children, and she's not at all. She's super strong, she's super healthy, super intelligent, just she's great, you know. And I've been raw vegan for 11.5 years now. My husband's been raw vegan for like 15 years, you know, totally raw vegan pregnancy, blah, 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 blah. And she is just like a picture of health. So, yeah. And I credit so much of that to, you know, following your guidance in Evie's Kitchen, because, yeah, I wouldn't want to be like just living on green smoothies and bananas and stuff, and whatever, like just being fed. But I wouldn't have known really what to do without that information being out there. So I think, you know, that's just a huge public service that you offered with that information. And yeah, for ourselves, we're super grateful, and I'm sure there's many other families out there as well who feel the same.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, you know, when something comes, it comes, doesn't it? You know, the stuff you do, it's the same. It's just whatever it is, it comes. So what are you doing at the moment, sweetheart?
I'm not really doing anything in the way of like anything
Being
very
a mummy.
productive in the world. Yes, yes. Yeah, one of my friends said something beautiful about motherhood that really stuck with me. She said, she at one point was feeling really sad in like the first year of her daughter's life, that she felt like she was never doing anything. And she was like, I can't do anything. I can't do anything creative that I want to do. And her dad said to her, when I look at what you're doing, it seems like the most creative thing that you've ever done in your life. You're like shaping, you know, and helping to nurture this new human. Like, what could be a more creative adventure than that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm definitely in that reality right now. You know, Oria arrived almost 2 years ago, and you know, anyone who's a parent knows that your whole world just completely shifts, and she's just, you know, the main thing on my mind all the time. And we were talking about this recently, how challenging it is to, for example, do a public talk.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a young child, it's just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't even imagine like going up in front of an audience and just blah, 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 blah for like an hour and a half. It's like, my head would just be like, you know, just thinking about her all the time. She's still nursing. So, you know, there's that whole component. Like, you know, she's just my first priority. So, yeah, that's kind of the reality that I'm in primarily. And then also kind of doing things that I really enjoy around that. Like, you know, I'm sharing these kind of videos now about, you know, parenting and all these kinds of things. And I just do little things to nurture myself all the time, because I think that's so important, you know, that the mother feels like her kind of well is full as well. So I'm just tapping into little things that I enjoy. Like, I'm really into knitting, and we have like a little women's knitting group every week here at the moment. And we're doing a lot of mandalas, like painting mandalas. We're going to have a mandala exhibition in about a few weeks, actually. We're going to put up a big art exhibition in town. We have a non-violent communication group with women here. So it's quite insular, my life at this point, you know. I'm really not kind of out there sharing very much publicly at this point. I don't feel to write any books or, you know, anything like that. It's like, I'm just trying to kind of keep my energy contained, you know, because I'm still producing breast milk like 24/7. So it's like, I don't want to be kind of like spreading my energy far and wide. Whereas my husband, Mr. Monarch, is completely different. Like, he's just, you know, ready, like chomping at the bit, ready to go back out there and do public talks, lining up, you know, tour dates and stuff. And I'm like, no, I can't do anything like that. I can't go anywhere. I'm just, you know, I traveled for so many years before we got here. I traveled for like 14 years or something. And then we finally got here, and it's like, oh my God, I live somewhere, and, you know, we're growing our food, and we have like 15 animals who live here with us. And, you know, it's very grounding. Like, our daughter was born here. This is her homeland, you know. And for me now, the idea of, you know, jumping on a plane and going somewhere else is like, what? Like, I just can't even conceive of it anymore. As well as the fact that Oria gets motion sick super easily. Like, she just doesn't do well with traveling so far. So, you know, yeah, it's a very kind of hermit kind of lifestyle for me at this point, and I love it. You know, I'm really absorbing it and enjoying it to the full, because it's very different to how I was living before, and also how I imagine things will be, you know, further down the line. But at this point, this is how it is, you know, very kind of like quiet, insular, just doing little projects and being with my daughter.
You know, but isn't that just beautiful that you've created a life where you can do that and you can raise her in this way and she can be amongst the vegetables and the animals and be at home and have all these gatherings around her and women's groups. I mean, you know, that is another example of someone that actually creates their perfect life. And, you know, do you remember when we talked about, what were we talking about, crystals or something like that? One day you came to my house and you were saying you wanted to build something out of crystals. And I said, oh, you could probably get some off your land. And then you went back home and the tide went out and there's all these quartz crystals there. It's like you only had to say it.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, you know, being in that space where you can manifest. Not just for the sake of it. It's not like manifesting a car parking space. You know, we've all been in that zone, haven't we? But, you know, where you're creating something for the highest good of the people around you and sharing that with your environment, with your community, the same as I do here, you know, the same as I want to do with this event. It's exactly the same. So, you know, you can say I'm doing nothing because there's not some words coming out on a piece of paper from Angela brain, but you know, all the rest of it, that's awesome. Isn't it? You look very happy.
Absolutely, and I feel so blessed. Thank you. Yeah, I do feel super, super blessed to be here and to be raising our daughter in this environment. Like, I just look at her sometimes and think, oh my God, she has no idea about so many other ways of life or anything, you know. It's just she's just here, and like she just plays outside pretty much like 90% of the daylight hours. She's outside, you know, and she doesn't like I know other mothers who, you know, they're always trying to like find different things for their children to do, like different activities and stuff, and it's like there's just never that energy with Oria because she's just kind of outside, like she's just in the garden and you know, jumping on the trampoline and things like that, and it's like she just kind of connects to the land and just kind of takes care of herself in some way. I mean, obviously she's not just like out there on her own. But,
you terrible woman.
it's like she just has no idea like about, you know, like living in an apartment on the 90th floor in New York City or something, like, and you can't go anywhere because there isn't anywhere to go except like falling 90 foot.
Yeah.
More than that down to the
you don't really want to do.
And yeah, it just kind of blows my mind when I watch her, you know, and she comes and picks greens with me in the morning for our juice and our smoothie, and she knows what everything is because she does it with me every day, and it's just like a natural environment. She'll be like, fennel, parsley, you know, and like cucumbers are her favourite food, and like she just goes in the greenhouse and picks cucumbers, and she wants this size of cucumber and this one, and she just doesn't think twice about any of it, you know. And you know, we're not into vaccination or schools or any of that kind of thing, and you know, she's full-term breastfeeding and that whole kind of picture. And she doesn't know any different. She doesn't even know, she's never even seen cooked food, you know, like she doesn't even know that that exists.
No.
And, you know, to me, I just like marvel at her reality, and I really hope that she appreciates it, you know, as she grows up, because you never know, right?
No.
She might grow up and be like, oh my God, my parents did this and this, and you know, I hope that she also appreciates it, because I just look at her and I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. But, you know, who knows what she's going to think.
Let's not manifest her working in a fast food joint, eh? This is kind of one of the things that I really loosened the reins on Evie when I moved here into the community that I live in, because she couldn't go around other people's houses and sit and have food with them and stuff like that, and because they obviously wouldn't know what to make. And so she was 4, she chose to start eating cooked food, and now she eats probably about half and half. And it's like, well, you know what, she's super tall. She's just turned 9. She's 4'8". She's nearly as tall as me. She's like, she comes up here. She's really tall, and she's filling out, and she's getting that figure, and she's like, oh, she's so beautiful, so utterly beautiful. And I'm like, you know, whatever it is, what I did in the beginning, and what I continue to get into her food, because it's all organic and homemade regardless, unless we go out. Do you know what I mean? It's Pizza Express, she'll have a pizza and I'm like, pizza. But it's not the worst thing in the world, is it? And I just think, God, whatever it is, that she's had that start. So even if she rebels, even if by the time she's 16 she's eating pizza every day, she's going to have that underlying substantial, full of nutrient start. And I think that makes a big difference. So the degeneration has kind of reversed from me, and has reversed a generation with her. So at least you'll have that.
And totally. That's cool that she has that kind of stockpile inside her, because the way that most people are brought up, me included, in that whole kind of Western model is not very kind of nutrient full as you're growing up.
No, there's no emphasis on it.
Sugar, white flour, white everything. It's I didn't really have a stock bank, and I see that with a lot of children. They just look kind of like grey, like they don't look very full of nutrition. So, and people ask us that all the time, like, what are you going to do if she becomes a teenager and she's eating pizza every day? It's like, well, that's her choice. We're doing the best that we think that we can do at this point for her, and that's all that we can do. I think it's probably pretty much inevitable that she's going to rebel at some point. I mean, I would hope that she wouldn't, but that tends to be the kind of things that children do. So,
because you never did it, did you?
No, not at all.
But maybe you can strike a deal that she can rebel about some things and not others.
Maybe.
You don't have to draw mandalas.
You have to have your chlorella tablets.
Yeah. So it's just amazing, isn't it? Having the ability to be able to do what you're doing and raise this child in this way, and know that no matter what, you've given her, whatever it is, that amazing, firm, unique foundation, unique in our culture these days, foundation. And hopefully whatever she's going to have that within her, and something will change as a result of her being brought up like that. It's a big gift. We have a very similar thing here with I call Evie a free range child, because we're on 23 acres of land and she just roams around. Do you know what I mean? And it's very similar. I don't see her for hours, and I don't ever know when she's coming back. I know she's safe. She's with her mates and she's free range. So she's up a tree, or they're in the tree house, or some other word that begins with tree, and that's it. I can see you looking up. Do you need to go? Have you got child business to be seeing to?
Oh, just some work doing something else. I don't know what they're doing. No, they're good.
They're good. Yeah.
Did you read the book Free Range? What was it called? Free Range Kids? What was it called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Free Range Kids. Did it have another title?
Oh, just some tagline like how to give children the childhood that we had or something. If you didn't read it and you have any interest in that kind of line of books anymore, then you might really like it. I think the woman was called Lenore something.
Right.
It's a really cool book. I actually want to do a review of it at some point. But she she ended up being labelled something like the most hated mum in America or something, because she did this experiment where she I think her son was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or something, and they live in New York, and he really wanted to see whether he could get home by himself from department store. I think it was Macy's or something. So she was like, okay. So they went on this trip. She gave him a map. She explained everything. He had change to like make a phone call if he needed to. Everything was organized. He did it. He got home. Everything was fine. And she was called onto some chat show to talk about this. And the whole thing was like turned inside out, and she ended up in this total like media furore of like it was the worst mother in America, because she let her like 12 or 13-year-old child, whatever it was, take a sock, like 2 stocks by himself or something, And so this kind of like began the start of her sharing about how absolutely neurotic parenthood has become in general around childhood safety. And of course, I'm sure there's even going to be people watching this saying, but, this could have happened, this could have happened, you know? And of course, some things do happen, but the level of just like panic and fear about children's safety compared to the reality of the statistics of things that actually happen to children is completely out of control. Yeah. And so she shares all about this in this book and gives all kinds of tips for parents of how to just calm down and chill out and allow their children to be a bit more free range. I mean, I don't know. I imagine it's probably similar in the UK than to the US. I mean, here it's just, you know, it's like the 1930s or something. Like children just, you know, play in the streets until midnight. You know, it's just so kind of like easygoing. But I'm aware that in the Northern Hemisphere, in those kind of countries, things can get a bit crazy.
That's very interesting. So we had a little incident here where one of my neighbour's children decided to take herself off to the village shop at 7:30 in the morning. So she's 9, and she hadn't done this before, and her parents weren't up, but her older brother was up and didn't notice. Anyway, she got picked up by an ambulance guy who took her home. He wasn't in his uniformed vehicle, so he was just in his normal car, and she got in the car. Luckily, he was actually an ambulance guy, and he brought her home, and the police came, and they said they had reports that a 6-year-old girl was wandering the streets. I mean, she was 9, and she doesn't look 6. She looks 9. And also, you know, the house was unlocked because the older brother was open, and we live in a community, so they don't lock the houses. I do. And, you know, there was nothing really wrong with her going to the... I mean, you're talking about going across our meadow and down the road. There was nothing wrong with her doing that, apart from the shop wasn't open and she hadn't told her parents. But the way that the police overreacted was as if she'd run away from home or her parents were being negligent. And it does kind of... Yeah, she had to be told not to get in someone's car because that was the dangerous part. Wasn't walking down the road. That's not dangerous. We live in the middle of nowhere, you know. But it does kind of make me think about that story you just said, because it's those incidents where people think that, you know, if you haven't got a tight rein on your child, someone is waiting for them around the corner, and it isn't true. And my neighbours then looked at the statistics of they said she was more likely to die in a car crash on the way to school than to have a problem having done that, and they gave all these statistics to the police.
Nice.
But ultimately, you know, we have to let go sometime, and we let go when we feel it's right. We have the deepest intuition for a reason. You know, this is why we're mothers. That first time when you go, okay, go over the road to the coffee shop, to the toilet on your own while I wait here, and you're like this, I'm sweating and counting the seconds, and then they come back, oh God, you know, but you have to go through it, and I guess you could do it without the sweating and doing this, but you know, because you're on a piece of elastic with your child, probably for the rest of your life. My mum is like that with me now, and I'm, like I said, 12. So let us be mothers. And sometimes it'll go wrong because life goes wrong sometimes, or it deals you a card you weren't expecting. But most of the time, kids are very, very safe in those environments. And the more we let it happen, the more we'll get back to a situation where you, like what you're living in, and like where I live, where kids are able to stay out past dark, because it's safety in numbers, and that doesn't exist at the moment in the UK and in North America, because they've been fragmented and all plugged into games and, you know, video games, and you're keeping your child safe, but you're giving them no life, and it's really sad.
Yeah, in what sense are they actually safe? Like safe from
Well,
what?
safe from what? When they're taught to that if you kill something, it'll come back to life in 2 seconds' time. That, you know,
Really?
that video game ain't giving it the right food up there at all, is it? Which is a different story altogether.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I mean, I lived next to like a bunch of fields, and I literally, in the summertime, when I wasn't at school, because I went to mainstream school, when I wasn't at school, I would be out in the fields from like 8 or 9 in the morning, like as soon as I was up until the sun went down, out in the fields with my friends. And, you know, we just all lived in the houses around there, and we were just out there on our own, no adults at all, no mobile phones back then,
No
right?
phones.
Just out in the fields,
Yeah.
just doing whatever we wanted. And we
Yeah.
would go to someone's house and have lunch, and then we'd go back into the fields. All of the adults were totally, you know, just doing their own thing. They were fine, we were fine. There was no panic about anything.
Yeah.
But now, like that book that I just said to you about free range kids, there's so many tragic stories in there, from my point of view, of parents literally too scared to let their child, who's like 10 or whatever, go on their bike from their house to someone's house who's like 3 streets down. Like, because, like, for a start, they're scared just because they think something's going to happen. But there's also so much peer pressure among parents of,
Yeah.
like, you can't do that. You're a bad parent if you do that. Or the grandparents, like, giving that kind of energy. Oh, my God, you can't let the child do that. You're a bad parent. I would never have done that, you know?
Yeah.
There's, like, this whole mentality around that. And to me, it's just like, oh, my God, it's just so tragic. Like, I mean, it's the whole matrix system, right? Of like, you're going to be in a box, you're going to live in a box, you're going to go and sit in a box all day long, and you can't do
Eat out of the
anything,
box.
like, because it's too scary and someone's going to snatch you or something, you know? And of course, things do happen sometimes. Nobody's saying that they don't, you know, but the statistics are tiny compared to
Yeah.
the number of children who exist.
Yeah. They are tiny, and they haven't increased pro rata
No,
since
that's it.
since the
They haven't-
70s
they haven't
when we
increased
grew
the
up.
90s, yeah.
You know, nothing's changed apart from the kids have been put into these situations where they're not expressing themselves in a way that will make them a whole human. We're going to have some very, very damaged people, or like a completely different culture as a result of what's happening. But I do also believe that there's going to be a backlash because, like we were just talking about rebellion, that those people are going to rebel and they're going to make their kids go out and they're going to make their kids have a different life because they're going to make them have what they didn't get. And that's real freedom to explore as a child and to have this open, juicy imagination where everything's possible, rather than this little narrow pixelated world that, you know, is becoming increasingly common. And you know, people are putting their 1-year-olds on iPads and saying it's good for them so that because they know how to use it. And it's like, what is that doing to the development of these kids? It's outrageous, and it is going to change, and we won't always have this technology, you know, it's not going to always be here. And yeah, let's have them learning real stuff. But all we can do is do it with our own kids, you know, and talk about it like we are. Can't really make that much of a difference outside of that, you know. It's just got to happen naturally, and I do believe it will. I've huge faith in the way our world's going.
We're going into the age of Pisces.
Oh, tell us what that means.
Pisces going into Aquarius. I had it back to front. Out of Pisces into Aquarius. We're going into the age of you.
The age of me and your husband.
Yeah.
Surrounded by Aquarians. So what does it mean for us to go into the age of Aquarius?
No more boxes.
Oh, get out your box. Do you know, I've just been thinking a lot about boxes with just how we think about stuff, like how we close opportunities off by creating a thought that doesn't allow expansion. And, you know, like I was talking to one of my mates the other day, and she's met this guy who's very nice, and she says, but he's not the one for me. And it's like, how do we know anything? How do we know that someone's not the one, and if that's not right? Because, you know, that's just closed off all the opportunities of what it may have been or may not have been by bringing a thought into it, by bringing thought into the experience. And after I had my accident, obviously I had a really long time to think, lying down for so long. And I just, you know, I really started to understand the structure of thought and what it does and how destructive or constructive it really can be, and how we don't realise what we're doing because of the programming that's happened. So becoming like further away from your thoughts and getting space between your thoughts kind of gives you that a different sort of observation of how you've been designing your life subconsciously because of the thoughts you've been having. And I really saw it so clearly when I was lying down crippled. And I've been just so aware of it ever since.
Well, I guess that was part of the gift of that then.
Yeah, there's a lot of gifts in it. There are a lot of gifts in it. But it's that box thing, isn't it? Like out of the box, you know, to do whatever you can to keep expanding. One, you know, who's it? Oliver Wendell Holmes that says, once you've expanded your mind beyond its original dimensions, you can't put it back again. Or you probably said it a lot more eloquent than that. You didn't say it like a
something that you said earlier touches something in me as well. You said something about, well, you were talking about nutrition with Evie, and that you kind of like took a step back on that evolution. Like she's got kind of more nutrition in her than you had, something like that. And then that, with what you were just saying about thoughts, what it triggers in me is, I remember so clearly in the first weeks of Oria's life, I kept saying over and over and over again to Mr. Monarch, I just wish I could be somebody else for even just like 5 minutes. Because, you know, like when you have a child, all of your stuff gets triggered more than ever before. And it was like all the patterns of like, you know, my upbringing and just like the generational patterns, everything was just like boom, 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 like getting triggered.
Yeah.
And it was just like nauseating. And I wanted just more than anything to not be in my head in that box of all of those patterns. And I just kept saying it over and over again. Oh my God, I wish I could, like, even just for 5 minutes, like it would just be such a relief, you know, to not be living with all of that stuff. And what I kept feeling was, well, this is such an opportunity. Like now I have a child and I can step down the kind of level of madness from, you know, what I experienced. Which, you know, some people would look at, you know, my reality and just say, well, like, what are you talking about? But, you know, everything's perspective, right?
Yeah, it's all relative.
You know, from my perspective, to step down, like, the kind of generational madness. And then, you know, depending on how that goes, Oria has the possibility to step it down even more and step it down even more. And, you know, potentially get back to a more authentic version of who we really can be. You know, when I say that, I think of the example of Anastasia in the Vladimir McGray Ringing Cedars books. Like, you know, to me, she's just like an absolute icon of just, you know, womanhood and the possibilities that exist within humanity. You know, who knows, but to me, she's amazing. So that's kind of what I felt was, you know, stepping down those levels of madness potentially.
I totally agree.
You know, that's a possibility.
Yeah, and it really is, and you know, we can choose to accelerate the madness or decelerate the madness, and all the stuff within our child. It's like having an empty book, isn't it? You know, what we choose to heal with ourselves, so we can write this book differently, is all up for grabs, and it is. Oh God, everything's amplified when you have a child. everything's amplified. I totally empathize with what you say, and I've had it too. I'm like, I just need to get away from my brain. I just need to get away from my brain. I can't cope anymore. And you know, one of the big things that's really helped me was all this vibrational healing that I've had for the past year. And I've just been on it. I've been like, I've got to get this out. Or, you know, it's just driving me mad. It's like, whatever it is, I don't even know. I can't see. I'm too close to it. I didn't have the space there. That wasn't there. And the difference in Evie since I've had that healing is amazing. She's so much happier and not so clingy and all the other nice things that you would expect from a child. And I think that's what's interesting as well, is that, you know, when one of us chooses to heal within a family, everybody gets the result. And so, you know, someone's in a really destructive situation, say with a partner or with a child, they can impress that upon them and say it's their fault and, you know, they've got to cure themselves or get out, or they can say, okay, I'm going to deal with this in me and go for the healing within themselves. And that'll change it. That'll change the energy. You can't have the imbalance in the household. So it'll actually change it for everybody. And how amazing that we can be empowered ourselves to change the world. Just rippling out like that.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I have similar things happen in my family reality. It's like, you know, you have your kind of family constellation, and stuff will come up in my life over and over again that I don't even realize it at the time that it's happening. But afterwards, I'll find out, like, that happened in some form in a previous generation and it was never resolved energetically. So, you know, then I'm processing it. And there's always this feeling of like, oh, cool, you know, that somebody got to process it.
Yeah.
And then there's always this feeling of like, well, what's coming next? Yeah. Like, what else hasn't been processed?
But this is it.
And, you know, how much can I deal with before Oria has to deal with it?
Yeah. But you know, she probably won't, because you will get through it all. Because you've made the commitment to do it. So, you know, you've made the commitment to say the buck stops here. It's not going any further. It's not going into my child. So there you go. You know, the floodgate's going to open right at you. And you will get all that. And this is what I get in my vibrational healing, you know, with anything that I say. She's like, oh, yeah, 3 generations back on your father's side. And I'm like, oh, God, how do you even know that? She's like, she can just see the timeline. It's like, ugh. It's just bizarre. And she does a bit of burping and then I feel better. I'm like, great, that's easy. It's like, and I know that whatever Evie's got to deal with in her life is not going to be karmic. It's not going to be karmic. It's all going to go because I've made the decision to deal with that. Same with you, you know, you don't deal with stuff lightly. You've done a lot of that transformational stuff. Look what you were holding for your family, you know, before you released all that. Right. Look at that. That wasn't you, for God's sake. No, that was huge. And you've done that. You took that on and you've released it. And you know, the subtle stuff to still release is just going to keep coming and coming. And you're a channel for it. You're a channel of love for it. So of course it's got the opportunity to go expand and become universes in its own right.
Yeah.
Go you.
Well, Madame,
yes.
I think we covered a jolly subjects there. And yeah, we probably better wrap up for now.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you.
And let's tell people about the event again, just to make sure they got that one. So November the 9th, England, Sussex, all day event.
All day.
With Shazzie.
Yeah. It's on 11 o'clock in the morning until midnight. And there are rooms available here. Still, there's a couple of rooms left here, so they don't even need to travel. And if they can't find those, maybe people in the community can put them up, or there's very close by hotels and guest houses that are all listed on the welcome pack. As soon as people book, they'll get all those details. And yeah, it's going to be cracking. It's going to be really nice. A beautiful, inspiring, uplifting day.
Yay! So go to Shazzie.com.
Shazzie.com. Yeah, do that. Thank you, my darling.
Right.
Lots of love to
Thank
you.
you. Really fun to see you.
Yeah, you too. Nice to have a special chat.